Crops and livestock are up against damaging viruses as the government cancels funding for H5N1 avian influenza, and a 20-year-old virus has just been discovered in the cotton fields.
We're also talking tariffs again, as a temporary pause is placed on U.S. ag products. Pork producers are switching their efforts to a domestic marketing campaign, and candy manufacturers are throwing the red flag in the push to eliminate artificial food dyes.
We are so back with your Ag News Fix. I'm Braeden.
And I'm Savannah.
Welcome to Magnetic Ag Ears Edition.
Every week, we break down the top headlines and trends facing food and agriculture.
Fast, fun, and actually useful. Let's get it.
The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has terminated a $776 million federal contract with Moderna to develop an mRNA-based vaccine for H5N1 avian influenza, citing safety concerns and inefficient testing data. The decision marks a sharp point in the government's pandemic preparedness strategy.
According to HHS Communications Director Andrew Nixon, the move followed a rigorous internal review. Quote, "This is not simply about efficiency," Nixon stated. "It's about safety, integrity, and trust." The mRNA vaccine, which was still in early stage trials, was part of a broader effort to adopt COVID-era vaccine technology for zoonotic viruses.
Moderna has recently shared positive interim data from a study involving 300 healthy adults, reporting a robust immune response and a favorable safety profile. CEO Stefan Bancel says the company remains confident in the vaccine's potential. Quoting, "This clinical data underscores the critical role of mRNA technology has played in a countermeasurement of emerging health threats."
Despite the early results, HHS raised concerns about the long-term reliability of mRNA platforms in responding to emerging zoonotic diseases like H5N1. The department emphasized its intent to redirect funding toward vaccine technologies with longer track records and greater public confidence.
The backdrop for this decision is the growing spread of H5N1 in the United States agricultural system. According to the CDC, the virus has now reached 1,000 dairy herds and has led to the loss of more than 173 million poultry birds. While just 70 human cases have been confirmed in the United States, health experts remain concerned about the virus's potential to mutate and spark a broader outbreak.
Moderna's vaccine was one of several candidates being developed as part of the National Pre-Pandemic Influenza Vaccine Stockpile. Though this project has been canceled, 3 other avian flu vaccines remain under active development through the federal program.
Moderna has signaled its intent to continue development independently, exploring alternative funding options. While the federal government withdrawal may reflect a cautious recalibration, one that prioritizes public health and trust and proven science over experimental speed.
Birds aren't the only thing with the flu. A virus linked to crop damage across the Cotton Belt has been quietly circulating in U.S. fields for nearly 20 years, undetected. New research from the USDA Agricultural Research Service and Cornell University reveals that cotton leaf roll dwarf virus, or CLRDV, was present in American cotton as early as 2006, years before its official detection in 2017.
Alejandro Omildo Velarde, lead researcher and now an associate professor at Iowa State, said the discovery rewrites the timeline for CLRDV in the United States by quoting, "Our study shows that this virus was actually present in the Cotton Belt long before anyone realized," end quote. He explains that samples from Mississippi in 2006, Louisiana in 2015, and California in 2018 all tested positive for this virus.
In 2023, researchers collected fresh samples from fields in Southern California to confirm the virus's current presence. Lab tests validated California's first official report of CLRDV, raising concerns that the pathogen could be more widespread than previously believed.
The team used bioinformatic tools to reanalyze archived genetic samples stored in public databases. Their analysis uncovered viral sequences that match current U.S. strains, showing that existing data, when re-examined, can help detect threats long before traditional surveillance methods catch on.
In a surprising twist, researchers also found traces of the virus in the gut contents of a cow, likely consumed through contaminated plant-based feed. While this doesn't indicate animal infection, it hints at a broader and earlier distribution of CLRDV than previously understood.
The findings also breathe new light into an old debate in cotton science, bronze wilt. The study proposed a potential connection between CLRDV and the long, mysterious wilt syndrome, suggesting that previously unexplained crop losses could be tied to the virus.
For cotton producers, this discovery is both a red flag and a roadmap. USDA researcher Dr. Michelle Heck emphasized that understanding how the virus went undetected and why it's gaining momentum now is key to future disease management.
The study highlights the power of bioinformatics and cross-disciplinary research in modern agriculture. As plant diseases evolve and spread, tools like genetic databanks may hold the clues to staying one step ahead.
From the lab to the courtroom, tariffs are still the talk of the town in Washington, D.C. In a significant ruling last Wednesday, a 3-judge panel from the U.S. Court of International Trade ordered a temporary pause on the 10% tariffs imposed by the Trump administration on major buyers of U.S. ag products, namely Canada, Mexico, and China. The court determined that such tariffs can only be imposed by Congress, not the executive branch.
According to the International Food Policy Research Institute, reciprocal tariffs could lead to a contract in a global agricultural trade by up to 4.7% and a decline in U.S. GDP as much as 1.2%. Moreover, the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation reports that farm incomes have already seen a nearly 30% drop over the past 3 years, and an additional tariff would only exacerbate these losses.
Politically, this ruling has implications as well. House Democrats are seeing an opportunity to regain the majority by targeting the Corn Belt, capitalizing on discontent among farmers over President Trump's renewed tariffs.
In summary, the court's decision to pause these tariffs over a temporary reprieve for U.S. agriculture, providing hope for farmers and consumers alike. However, the long-term implications will depend on the future political decisions and international trade negotiations.
Our pork producers are fighting back on tariffs by turning their focus to domestic markets.
The National Pork Board has launched a new, bold campaign titled Taste What Pork Can Do, aiming to reignite America's love affair with pork. Despite being the most consumed meat globally, U.S. pork consumption has remained stagnant at about 50 pounds per person annually over 5 decades.
In contrast, chicken and beef consumption has soared to over 160 pounds per person, respectively, with nearly a quarter of the U.S. pork exported in 2024. Shifting trade dynamics, especially with China, highlight the importance of bolstering domestic consumption. The campaign's timing is crucial, aiming to mitigate potential export declines by strengthening the domestic market.
This campaign is not just about recipes. It's a strategic move to connect with millennials and Gen Z consumers who prioritize taste, convenience, and cultural relevance in their meals. By showcasing pork's versatility through diverse recipes and cooking techniques, the campaign aims to position pork as a go-to protein for modern lifestyles.
Taste remains a primary driver for meat purchases. Products like bacon, sausage, and pepperoni have seen increased demand, with pork trim prices for sausage doubling since 2022. However, challenges persist in cooking certain cuts, like pork chops, prompting the industry to explore new cuts and cooking methods to enhance flavor and convenience.
As the pork industry voluntarily evolves, major snack and candy manufacturers are sounding the alarms over a federal push to eliminate artificial food dyes by the end of 2026. While the FDA hasn't issued a full ban, it's pressuring companies to start phasing out petroleum-based synthetic colors, a move critics say is both ambitious and a logistical nightmare.
The agency approved 3 new natural color additives this spring and says the shift is part of a broader effort to improve the health profile of the U.S. food supply. But the food industry says it's not that simple. Ferrera, the company behind Nerds, Laffy Taffy, and Black Forest fruit snacks, calls the 2026 deadline, quote, aggressive, citing supply chain limitations and lack of clear regulatory guidance.
Christopher Gindelsberger with the National Confectioners Association says companies need more time. Reformulating isn't just about swapping colors. It affects cost, shelf life, packaging, and allergen risk. Plus, natural dyes can behave differently in food, and not all consumers welcome the change.
A recent example is when General Mills switched Trix cereal to natural colors in 2016, sales dropped. Consumers missed the bright, recognizable look. The company then reversed the course next year.
Snack makers also worry about regional inconsistencies. While the FDA's effort is voluntary, for now, states like West Virginia have already passed laws banning multiple synthetic dyes. Companies like Ferrera are juggling national reformation plans with a patchwork of state regulations, all while continuing to launch new products.
Ferrera says less than half of its product portfolio currently uses natural colors. They've created internal task force to track regulation and prep for what's next. Other brands, like Bazooka and Hershey, say they're quietly testing natural alternatives but are still waiting for more clarity before moving forward at full speed.
Despite concerns, some brands are making notable progress. Killanova, formerly part of Kellogg's, says 80% of its North America profile is already free of artificial dyes. But products like Pop Tarts with sprinkles still use synthetics, and replacing them without sacrificing taste and texture remains a challenge.
FDA Commissioner Marty Makary has said he hopes to avoid formal rulemaking, calling instead for voluntary compliance, but noted that, quote, every tool in the toolbox, end quote, is on the table to ensure progress happens quickly.
Bottom line, the race to reformulation is on, but not everyone is sprinting. Between consumers' expectations, supply limitations, and regulatory confusion, the path to natural colors is anything but black and white. In this case, consider it red 40.
Savannah, it sounds like I need to go stock up on strawberry Pop Tarts just in case the flavor profile changes in the coming months.
Well, Braeden, good news. You have some time now, as that was our last headline. Thanks for joining us for another week of your Ag News.
Hungry for more?
Subscribe to our twice weekly newsletter for more industry news right in your inbox.
Or follow along on socials at magnetic.ag for more trends and headlines.
Thanks for listening to Magnetic Ag Ears Edition.